sort of get standardization across the board with everybody and kind of get everyone on the same page.
Some background noise.
Yeah, remember to mute your line if you haven't already. Okay, we'll give it one more minute and then we'll get started right at 6:35. Okay, it looks like we have the majority of folks on already. So welcome, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is our 2024 Fellowship Host and Sponsorship Info Session for Open Access. For those of you who may not know, my name is Roz Billups. I was a fellow with Open Access in 2022 and now the executive director for the program. So I want to welcome you all, and then I'm going to hand it over to one of our co-founders, someone who I'm sure you all know, Mr. Jeff Mohay, to give you a nice warm welcome.
Now, and I'm going to be extremely brief. Every time that we have another step forward, it's more humbling than it was the previous step. Thank you all for supporting this amazing initiative, and it's an initiative that is very visible as we walk the halls of the conferences that we go to, and you see some of the folks that came out of Open Access now in the industry that we call community development finance, which is very elusive to many people just because they don't know about it. So, thanks to you all for helping build this foundation for future success of this program.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Jeff. And yes, thank you so much for everyone who's continued to support from day one, all of our sponsors, programmatic sponsors, as well as fellowship sponsors. We couldn't do it without you. So we're extremely appreciative. So we want to keep it short and sweet tonight. You probably have gotten a lot of email updates from me, and I wanted to just make sure we had a moment to come together and answer any questions that you all may have. But just in the interest of time, I do want to just go over the basics of the fellowship program, the outline, and what we're planning for next year. We do have a couple of new folks on that are looking to host fellows as well. So this would be important information for them, for new folks. For folks who have been here since the beginning, just bear with us so we can go through the basics of the program and structure. And all of this information is also available on our website, open-access.us. So typically, the way that the fellowship program is run, we normally are asking for sponsorship commitments around this time in the fall prior to the spring when the fellowship would actually take place. So right now, we're now in the month of November 2nd. We have a good portion of our fellowship host locations solidified. We have other folks that are coming in. If you're looking to host a fellow, what you need to do is you need to have a job description. You've probably gotten a lot of emails saying, if you want to sponsor or host a fellow, submit this form here. When you submit that form, two things we're asking for. We're asking for a detailed job description, and we're asking for a contact person that the fellow is going to report to. This is important because we want to make sure the fellow knows who their point of contact is, and also for us, the home team and Open Access, so we can know who to contact and check in to make sure things are going according to schedule and that everything is going well and smooth. So that's something that's important. I've gotten a lot of verbals and a lot of emails for folks who are looking to host a fellow again this year. Please take a moment and fill out that form if you haven't done so already. Once you fill out that form, you will get a response back from me with next steps as far as what you need to do. Those next steps will include invoice for your administrative fees for hosting the fellow, which is still $2,000 as it was last year. Also, you'll get a contract from me, which gives you an outline of some of the things we're going to talk about today. So it's truly important that you just take a moment, look at those emails that you've gotten from me, and fill out the form for the fellowship. In addition to that, We're so grateful. We have a lot of folks who are also sponsoring on the programmatic side. With that, there are a lot of benefits that you get as a programmatic sponsor. So another thing that you will see in the emails as well as on our website under the Ways to Support tab are the different levels at which you come in as a sponsor. So we have several executive level sponsors. We have over a dozen founder circle sponsors. And so at each level of sponsorship, there are different benefits that you have access to. And some of those benefits I'm going to talk about when we talk about the program structure for next year. But so you want to make sure you take a look at that and take advantage of it as well. So fellowship. Our program, what we've done, we have a three-pronged approach that we use to make sure that the fellow is having a good experience, that the host is having a good experience, and that they walk away with tangible that they can use to actually get placed in a job. So our mission in open access is to increase diversity, specifically for Black and Latinx professionals within community development at all different levels. So it's important that we cover these three different approaches throughout the fellowship. So the first one is education. The fellows will continue to have access to online training through Novogradac. Last year and as well as next year, we've added in-depth Excel training, financial modeling with Josh Carr and his team. And also we have CDFI underwriting that's done by Jeff Mohay and his team at Mohay Capital, as well as new last year and again next year, Carla Manning. She came on and helped us as well with PGC Loan Fund. Remember, guys, please mute your line if you haven't done so already. Thank you. And so we have a list of courses that the fellows are going to get as far as online education. Again, Excel in-depth financial modeling course that happens over the time frame of 2 weeks. They're getting the one-on-one training that's provided online with Novogradac. We have CDFI underwriting training that's being delivered by Mohay Capital under Jeff's team. And we also have another CDFI training that happens later in the fellowship delivered by Carla Mannings. So that's all education that the fellows are getting. That's the first prong of the fellowship program. The second prong, which most of you all are very familiar with, is the on-the-job training. This is where the fellow has to complete at least 160 hours or the equivalent in work product during that 3-month time period. So the fellowship, as I stated earlier, always happens during the spring. We're still working on the exact dates, but it's usually sometime between mid-March to early June that the fellowship takes place. Okay. So with that on-the-job training, the stipend that the fellow is going to get paid is going to equivalent at least $4,000. And sometimes that can be paid at $25 an hour if you want to do it as an hourly rate. We've had hosts that pay it based on deliverables, depending on the type of projects that they're working on. You work out with your fellow how that structure is going to be. We just ask that you commit to at least that $4,000 stipend number by the time they finish the program. Okay. We also have a lot of times fellows are asked to extend the fellowship. That's absolutely fine. You can work that out with the fellow. If you want us to step in and assist with that, we're more than happy to do so. But if you want them to do more hours or you want to extend the program, you're more than welcome to do that. We've seen that a lot of times, especially if we anticipate there's a potential job offer that maybe is not yet available and they want to extend that fellowship until that job becomes available. You can absolutely do that at your discretion. We just definitely want you to keep us updated and keep us in the loop. So the on-the-job training portion is so important. You know, as you all know, when we started Open Access, Jeff and Gina, when we started initially, it was all virtual. So now we've moved from a virtual model to more of a hybrid model, and with a lot of host locations and fellows asking to do more in person. And so we've responded to that by offering more in-person opportunities for the fellows, not only for the on-the-job training piece, but also for the third prong, which is the mentorship and networking piece. So last year, we were consistent with our online panels, with our fireside chats, with our alumni panels. That's where the fellows are able to log in online and really, ask those hard to answer questions sometimes, get the feedback, and also get insight from industry leaders. You all have participated in so many panels, and I thank you again so much for that. We're going to need your participation again next year. So if you're interested in hosting a panel, if you're interested in leading a fireside chat, please send me an email or send me a text and let me know, because we're building out the rest of the program calendar, and we would love to have you all, our industry leaders, leading those panels for our fellows. But to answer really the response that a lot of the sponsors have had, also fellows, we've done more in-person events. And last year we were successful at having our first in-person graduation and Up Next Mixer in DC. So that was a huge success. Thank you all for coming out and for showing your support. We're definitely going to do that again next year. But we're also going to have some mini events leading up to it where fellows will have opportunities based on the region that they're in to do a meetup in person with some sponsors and other colleagues in the industry. So that is something that's new coming next year. I know a number of you have reached out and said that you want to host one in your location. If you're interested in hosting a meetup or mixer on a smaller version for us, please, again, reach out and let me know. We definitely already have 5 regions that have been locked down. So if you want to know who's hosting in your region, or if you want to lead that in your region, please let us know. So that's, again, the 3-prong approach that brings the fellowship together. So that way the fellow is having an amazing experience. They're walking away with things that are tangible. They're getting the education, they're getting the hands-on job training, and they're getting the mentorship and the networking. And in that networking, they're still eligible to go to at least one conference and pre-conference, which is sponsored as well by Novogradac. So thank you again, Novogradac and team, for continuing that sponsorship for next year. So that really is the outline of the program and the framework. Again, all that information is online, but I wanted to make sure that we spoke about that a little bit more for the new people that may be just joining us for 2024. Okay, so that is really the skeleton around the fellowship and how it works. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about applications. So if you all follow us on LinkedIn, and I hope that you do, we've had a lot of activity this year on our LinkedIn page. We did an announcement yesterday, November 1st, and we decided to do an early application round. So historically, each year, we've gotten over 150 to 200 applications each round of professionals interested in being a fellow. We only select about 24 fellows each year because we want to keep the quality of the program as high as possible. And we want to make sure that all of those metrics are being met that we just talked about. That really is the secret sauce of the Open Access Fellowship. So what we decided to do was do an early application round and open it up only to previous applicants and referrals from our existing alum. And that way we would get a firsthand look at, over the 600 plus applicants that we have in our candidate bank who are still interested in becoming a fellow and want to reapply. And I can't tell you how much the phone has been ringing all day yesterday. The LinkedIn has been blowing up. It's been fantastic just to see the response of repeat applicants that we have. And so that's going to continue to go on through November 15th. Once we get through that application round, we're going to open up our normal application for everyone on November 22nd. So right before Thanksgiving, which is what we typically do each year. We'll give them about 3 to 4 weeks to apply, and then all those applicants will be wrapped up by December 15th. So December 15th is when you can expect as a fellowship host to get your hands on all of those candidates that are looking to be a fellow at your location. And the reason I'm bringing up those dates is because, in the industry right now, we have applications that are due, we have deadlines that are coming up. And so we do want to be mindful of that. So that way you understand those are our key dates. But as soon as you know that you're looking to host a fellow or that you're able to sponsor in any way possible, please remember to fill out the form or reach out to me directly so we can make sure that we keep you up to date with all of that information. So those are the main things that we wanted to talk about on the call tonight. I do want to open it up for a few questions. One thing I do want to stress as well is that during the fellowship, we are going to have touch points with the fellowship host and with the designated contact. So each location, when you put your designated supervisor's email and that phone number, please, if you can, make sure it's a cell number, because I want to make sure I can reach someone that is not just an office line that's going to go to voicemail. We want to make sure that we're able to touch base with the fellowship providers throughout the program, not just through email, but also have those phone conversations to make sure that things are going well, that everything is, above and meeting your expectations, and that if you have any questions throughout the program, that we're available to answer those questions for you. So I know I've said a lot. I want to open it up for Q&A and also give room for our co-founders, Jeff Mohay and Gina Nesbitt, to make any other comments or remarks as well. Do we have any questions? And if you want, you can type them as well.
Hi, Roz LaQuentis from Stonehenge. Just a real quick question. In terms of the number of overall fellows that you expect to take this year, is it going to be fairly consistent with what has been in recent years, or do you expect more or fewer? What should we expect there?
Yeah, we're expecting to take in about the same number as last year, about 24. We try to keep that consistent year over year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hey, Roz, I just want to amplify what you're saying, and then to, as someone that actually has sponsored fellows, it is extremely important to keep the line of communication open, and it's very important that whoever goes through the process of the the early on exercise that we're doing here, and then actually selecting a fellow, that there's that communication with Roz and that fellow through that whole experience. What we've had in some cases that that there was a little bit of a breakdown. We had someone from an organization deal with the selection process, and then when that fellow came in, they started working with someone else from the organization, and there was a disconnect on the expectations on of the program. So it's very, very important that whomever is here today, and whoever ends up managing that fellow, that there's a close relationship to make sure that the initiatives and the understandings and the expectations of the program get communicated correctly.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And so I do want to piggyback off of that and go into a little more detail. If you have someone that you've chosen as the direct supervisor for the fellow, and you realize either there's an assignment change or maybe the fellow is better suited in a different area and you're going to pivot, please let us know that. And so that way we can make sure we're communicating with the right people. Also, as a fellowship host, we want to make sure that you are getting the best experience as well, because at the end of the program, we want to make sure that you have a job offer that, the fellow was actually, going to take. And that's going to also depend on the experience that they have there with you as the provider. So it's important, as Jeff stated, that you build that relationship. Remember, that third prong is mentorship. So we're looking for you to take an active role in the fellow. It's not just, a regular intern who's coming out of high school. Remember, as Gina always says, our fellows are grown as adults, right? So they've already graduated from college. They have work experience. So we want them to get the most out of the program, but we also want to make sure that you offer them those opportunities to do so and build that relationship with them. We've had fellows who've been able to travel and go to different events, travel out of state. We've had fellows that have taken jobs in different states because they've had such a great experience. And we definitely want to keep that, trend moving up and in the right direction. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, so after the call is wrapped up, I'm going to send everyone a follow-up email with the recording of the call, also with a one-page document of just Q&A, just basic questions that we've had over the years with answers for the fellowship host. So you have that. One question that usually comes up again later on, either with an HR person or maybe someone in your DEI area of your organization, is how do you pay the fellow? The easiest thing to do is to put them on payroll and pay them 1099. Most organizations do that. It makes it very easy. You can go through your normal onboarding process that you would do at your organization. And then hopefully, you know, at the end, if you offer them a job, then you won't have to go through that onboarding process again. So we've had a lot of host locations do that and do that initial onboarding paperwork. So you can work it however you see fit. One thing that is going to be new this year is we're going to require that one-on-one training to be done prior to the start date of the fellowship. So typically we would have the fellows do a self-paced training for new markets tax credits, LIHTC, and then they get a third option of a one-on-one training that they want to complete in tax credits. Usually we would have them do that training at the beginning of the fellowship. What we want to do is give them a little more room and have them complete that training prior to the start of the fellowship. So we'll be checking in with your fellow before the actual start date to make sure they have done at least the LIHTC and new markets tax training before they start with you all. So that is something that we have changed a little bit this year, and that's in response to your feedback. Speaking of feedback, when we send out the surveys and we ask for your feedback, for your input, please respond, let us know, but don't wait until the survey. Please let us know ahead of time if you run into any bumps along the way, any hiccups, or any thing that you just need help navigating, whether it be schedule. Remember, 160 hours is about 15, 20 hours a week. If you have fellows who are graduate students or they're working full time, they're going to make a way to get those hours done. But we do ask that you work that out with them ahead of time as far as their schedule. What days do you need them in the office? What times do you need them to show up for? If you have a weekly compliance or staff meeting, do they need to be there? As best as possible, if you can communicate and work out that schedule ahead of time with the fellow, it's going to make it a smooth ride and you're going to be able to be very productive and effective throughout the program.
My name is Charles Van from Little Rock, Arkansas. It sounds like you're going to select 20 people for the fellowship. Is that right?
Well, Charles, actually, the fellowship host selects their fellow. So open access, we don't select them. The fellowship hosts get all of the applicants on December 15th, and then they start the interview process and they interview and select the fellow they want for that specific job description.
So how many will there be?
There will be about 24 in total.
Okay. And preference right now is given to people that have applied previously, right?
Well, we're doing an early application round just to source those candidates first. So the sponsors that have already committed and they're hosting, they're going to get a little bit of an early start. So it's a little bit of a teaser this year.
And Charles, just to expand on that a little bit, so historically we've received over 200 applicants, and we download this into a sortable Excel file. So you have the ability to filter by state, to filter by education, whatever you want to filter by, and then through that process you would go select how many candidates you want to interview. And then through that interviewing process, you select your person.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Any other questions before we wrap up? Okay, so again, thank you all so much for your continued support. Like I said earlier, we couldn't do this without you. You all are an integral part of the Open Access Fellowship Program. And so you will get the follow-up email from me with the recording of today's call, as well as the one-pager with the usual Q&A. How do I do this? What do I expect? And as soon as we have those dates solidified, we'll let you know. But the early application is going live. As of right now, the link is not available on LinkedIn. We purposely sent the link out directly to all of the previous candidates, which were over 600, and the referral sources. So we want to, have a streamline and be able to track those early applicants, and then we'll go live for everyone on November 22nd. All right. And thank you all so much. I appreciate it. I hope you have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank